Yes.
Thank you for being here tonight. I'm here with David, who introduced himself earlier, MJ Bernier, the producer, and Miles Jackson, who played Hans. I'm Laura Nielsen. I also officiate weddings. David, could you tell us about the genesis of this film and what inspired this very, very unique storyline?
The very first seed of the idea came from a music class at Vassar when I was studying an opera history course, and I saw this film called Farinelli, which is from the 90s, and Farinelli was the most famous of the 18th century castrati, and it just always sort of stuck in my mind, like, what would something like that look like today? And then a couple of years ago, I heard an NPR interview with a countertenor, and then the idea kind of was rekindled, and then I just thought, I tried it as a short story first, and then I thought, I'm gonna go to make this, see how this would work as a short film.
When did you originally write it?
I wrote it in the end of 2023, and then began the fundraising and production in 2024.
I know that you shot it over the course of 4 days in New York City with a limited small film budget. MJ, perhaps you can speak more to this as the producer. How did you make that happen, given the constraints you were working with? Did any constraints end up being helpful in any way or useful for this particular story and what you were trying to achieve?
I do think the constraint often creates sort of this little spark of creativity in us that we often can't access without it. In a way, I think that indie filmmakers are so incredible with constraints, because it's kind of all we have is more and more of them. One of the great examples, I think, is the production design. I think that it was when you have, we filmed so many different scenes in one townhouse. And so it was looking at it like, okay, this dining room, if we move this, can be a conference room. And we had this amazing production designer, Karen Weber, and I think that the constraint of like, sorry, you got this one house, it created these unique and really incredible spaces. I was sort of admiring her work while I was watching it, thinking about like River's room, or Sam's room, and the hotel room, and how that was just an ordinary room, and all the little touches that made it seem like it was a real thought out space. And I work on larger sets too with much more money, and I don't know, sometimes less thought is put into it when you have more resources in a way. Not that I would mind.
Where was the townhouse, out of curiosity? How did you find it?
It was in Brooklyn. It was in what neighborhood? It was an unexpected neighborhood.
I think it was in Crown Heights. It's one of the oldest townhouses in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But we picked it because if it's like very clean, renovated interiors, and it could stand in for a modern office as well as a hotel suite.
And fit all our cast and crew.
Yes.
Miles, I'm really curious about your particular approach to your character and that, semi-spooky monotone voice. What direction were you given, and where did you take that? How did you decide to take that?
Is this okay? I was given a lot of freedom, maybe too much, but for Hans, I, didn't want to do sort of like a caricature villain. I wanted to take him very seriously in terms of like why he does this like pretty horrific thing. And I thought a lot about it in sort of religious terms, that he sees himself as like the keeper of an ancient, holy, divine tradition that is perhaps misunderstood by people who don't value like beauty and art. And it's like he's like saving these children from damnation because he's like stopping the inevitable from like ruining their voices, right? And so I wanted him to be like kind of paternal, but then I did want there to be a suggestion of like with older Sam, a potential like attraction,
A frisson.
yeah, like a little, oh, is this what's happening? And so that is why that all happened.
You shot almost about a year and a half ago, and I know you've done other projects since then. Has your relationship to that character changed in the last year and a half, seeing this screening now, or since the film's been out in the world, which is only relatively recently?
The more I see it, the more notes I have for the feature, for me.
Same smell for you.
Yeah, I think I may have done that fine. I could have. I would have liked to do like him actually fully breaking like a Toni Collette I'm your mother moment, but I wasn't really in this, right? So I didn't want to sort of like also like push a moment in that wasn't really in the story. But yeah, I have notes.
I'd love to talk about some really strong themes in the movie, in the film, especially sacrifices and compromises. And I know David and I had an earlier conversation. He said something really interesting. We were talking a lot about sacrifices and compromises inflicted on the youth when, you know, they're maybe not emotionally or intellectually mature enough to make these very adult decisions. And David had drawn a parallel to youth sports. I didn't see that coming, but can you maybe elaborate on that for everybody here?
Yeah, I think that the themes that started to emerge the more I spent time with the story was, you know, I guess being a child prodigy, and then sort of getting into having this sort of dream, and what maybe it wasn't the most obvious parallel, but then I follow a lot of like F1 and things like, I just like think of like you give up your whole life in pursuit of this one thing, and you go to a different school, and you you give up your friends, your social life, your education, and then when it comes to something like football or something, you're putting your body through things that you really don't know what the consequences will be, and you're not really, no one's really telling you necessarily like what the long-term results might be. And I mean, this story is very much about like manipulation and you know, I guess sort of bowing down to this sort of greater cult of aesthetics, and really not caring at all about the actual person who's just wants to sing.
That actually sort of leads me into the next question, which I'm opening up to all of you. Or there's a growing film and television genre known as body horror, or I only recently started to hear that term, but it includes films like The Substance, the forthcoming TV series by Ryan Murphy, Beauty, and this growing canon of work is taking inspiration from our culture today and reflecting it back to us in these really grotesque ways. And I kind of wondered whether or not it was intentional on your part it seems to me that Sotto Voce definitely falls into this category in terms of extreme medical intervention in pursuit of a particular idea of beauty. And it made me actually think, even just going back to the 1500s, it's just the castrati as maybe like one of our culture's earliest forms of body horror, or how we've been doing this to ourselves in various forms and various degrees throughout history. What are your thoughts, or have you thought about this much yourselves?
Yeah, I think it's funny that it's this thing that I think that's why I really love history, and I guess I'm a history buff, and I think part of it is just because you keep finding the same themes reoccurring in these oddly familiar ways, and the castrati were, I mean, they usually were young boys who were like from poor families. They were like the sixth or seventh boy, and they like could sort of sing, and then they would drop them off at these schools. Well, first they would have them cut, and then drop them off at these schools, and like maybe the like top 1%, or 0.1% would actually go on to have a singing career, and the rest were sort of just like maybe taught at a choir or something like that, and but the very top ones were they were as famous as you could get, and they sang at all the courts, and they were incredibly rich, and I guess it was just all part of the old-fashioned pop star aesthetic, and it's just so interesting how like it just keeps coming back, and all of these, people just get so wrapped up and obsessed with this idea of perfection, of beauty, of this is what I have to be to stand out and be special, and it gets really warped from time to time.
I even noticed when we were watching it today, this was the first time this thought occurred to me, but I was thinking like, gosh, I hope no one watches this and thinks like, is that real? Like, could my kid become a pop star? Could something, because I had this moment where I was like, I feel like people would stop at nothing to achieve this very unattainable thing. And I think body horror definitely comments on that idea, the pursuit of what's impossible, essentially, which is also very American now. So hopefully not. But I don't know how much body horror the feature is. I mean, it's something to think about for sure. I'm glad you brought it up.
I saw the film almost about a year ago, and that wasn't really a thought on my mind when I first saw it, but I do feel like body horror is really growing as a genre at this moment, and so it really, seeing it again, it's something that really came through for me and resonated more strongly. So it's just might be the moment in which this is coming out into the world, whether or not it was intended on your part.
I didn't want to linger too much on I don't know, I get queasy myself. It's like a queasy topic. I didn't want to go too deep into that. But I think it's pretty powerful just right off screen.
What's next for the film?
Yeah.
So we're calling this the director's cut, and
Is that a pun?
We should use that on social media, actually. We give away the...
we're currently working on a shorter cut hopefully to increase. I'm also working with a composer to have it scored. It has some music design, but I think that it could really benefit from a real score. And at a shorter length, the odds of getting into, I feel like it didn't get a fair shake at a lot of festivals that it could, and so I think at a shorter length, and there is a really interesting shorter version in this in the film that I don't feel is a compromise. I think it would be really cool. And yeah, resubmit it to more festivals, and then yeah, there is a feature script that is out there, and I'd love to.
We're making it.
Yeah, we're making it.
To be clear. We're making it shorter to make a longer version.
Well, what was that line in the film? You have to let go to hold on.
You have to let go to hold on. Yes, exactly.
Some things to. All right, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And we have there's some posters we're giving away, and some stickers, and anyway, thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Follow us on social media. Sotto Voce Film.
Hashtag the cut.
Hashtag.